Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure having you join us on yet another episode of the Yabo Voice webinar. This is a multi-program where we bring you very enlightening information about mental health and all the issues that pertains to life and our mental health life. So this is also a very good opportunity to learn and understand and even amass knowledge in such a way that you become more better and then you also become a vanguard for us on this platform. The medical director is on standby to welcome us to yet another episode for this month. Dr. Lubenga Adekile, over to you, sir. All right, while we're waiting for the medical director to join us, please note that the topic today is very important. And you should also note again that if there is anybody, any young one around you that needs to learn, then it's important that you get them on this platform. Remember, we're also streaming live on Facebook, so you can also join us on Facebook if you're not able to connect on the Zoom link platform. So please and please just gather everyone that you need that needs to hear this, that needs to be a part of this to join us on this episode of the Yabo Voice webinar. I'm sure that the medical director is ready now to formally welcome us to this month's episode of the Yabo Voice webinar. Over to you, the medical director, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemi Akintoye. We just want to thank you for the good job and for all your efforts in making this program a reality. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you to today's edition of our regular webinar by Yaba Voice on mental health issues. Yaba Voice is a platform for mental health education
All right, medical director, sir.
And educate the populace on topical mental health issues. So today's topic, social media addiction.
We apologize for the technical
Today's topic,
okay, he's back.
Is the way forward. Today's topic is social media addiction among adolescents and young adults, the way forward. As we all know, addiction is a complex condition that is characterized by compulsive activities, despite the drugs or alcohol, or behaviors like gambling or internet or social media. And as we all know, common signs will include tolerance, that is the desire to continue in the act more and more. So symptoms from it, loss of control of the habits, neglect of other activities in the life of the individual, and continued use despite negative consequences. Now, I want us to know this morning that addiction is treatable, and also seeking help from the appropriate healthcare professionals or support group or counseling can also lead to recovery. Therefore, we need to consider the topic of today. In today's webinar, the following. For instance, what does social media addiction entails? What are the factors that can lead to the development of such habits? How do we recognize this problem early? What are the available solutions? And how do we prevent the problems from reoccurring? To do justice to today's topic, our seasoned experts in mental health issues. Our first speaker for today is Dr. Adefemi Adegoke Adeoye, who is a consultant psychiatrist with over a decade of clinical experience. Currently, Dr. Adeoye works with the NHS as a consultant psychiatrist with the community mental health team in the United Kingdom. Dr. Adeoye obtained his Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery from the University of Ilorin in year 2000, and also Fellowship of the West African College of Physicians, and also had a certificate in sleep medicine. He was a pioneer psychiatrist in sleep disorder clinic of Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos. Our second presenter for today is Dr. Olubenga Koka. Dr. Olubenga Koka is a doctor of psychology. He specializes in family life, re-engineering, and human capital development using psychological tools to achieve clients' recovery. Dr. Koka is a clinical psychologist with over a decade of clinical experience with proficiency in DBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Some of these tools, he uses it to help individuals, families, and corporate organizations in paradigm shift and also develop competency for functional and adaptive living. He is an alumnus of University of Denver, Lagos Business School, where he obtained his Masters of Business Administration. Also an alumnus of University of Education, Winneba, Ghana, where he obtained his first and second degree in psychology. He is a mental health advocate and a public speaker. Our presenters are fully loaded with evidence-based approach on today's topic. Therefore, I want to implore you to kindly relax and listen to our mental health expert as we promise you a rewarding session of today's seminar. Over to you, Dr. Kemi Akitoyeshi.
Thank you so very much, the medical director, for that arousing welcome. We apologize once again for the itch in transmission a few minutes ago due to technical things that we can't control. But we will kickstart this conversation this afternoon, and we promise that it's going to be very, very interesting. But like I said earlier, get your words, get your children, get as many people that you know would benefit from this. This conversation is actually very necessary at this point in time. It's a conversation that we must have, and this is a good platform to also do this. To kickstart this conversation for us is Dr. Femi Adeoye, who is going to tell us what is social media addiction and how does it affect the brain. Dr. Adeoye, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akintoyeshi. Good afternoon, the medical director, and good afternoon, everybody. This is a very important topic at this point in development globally. Well, now focusing on Nigeria, it's even more important. About half of the population of Nigeria to recognize to have access to internet. And what do we do on the internet? We sometimes make money. We also entertain ourselves. In the process of doing this, people get into what is called addiction. What is addiction? The medical director highlighted some features of addiction earlier. Addiction simply entails some of the habits whereby the individual loses control over certain behavior. In this instance, we are talking about the use of social media. So when you are no longer in control of the use of social media, you prioritize uh, being on the social media over any other aspect of your life. And this kind of behavior persists despite your efforts, even at trying to stop yourself sometimes. And then there are consequences. Maybe you're a student, and then you started noticing that your grades are going down, your parents are quarreling with you, and all that. But despite all this, you are unable to stop yourself from continuing with these habits. And to the extreme of it then affects your ability to function in your relationship with your family, at work, or at your academics and all that aspect of your life. Then it becomes a disorder. Though social media addiction is not one of the labels in current psychiatric manual. However, there are categories of ad, diagnosis that are closely related to this. And some of these include when people have what we call gambling disorder and then the gaming disorder. But this could be when you gamble, it could be online or offline. And then, of course, there are games that people play online or offline. So people can get addicted to these too. But we're focusing on the aspect whereby people use social media and then get addicted to these. So um, this is summarily what we can recognize as um, social media addiction. However, just quickly, I know that a lot of us do use the social media, and I'm sure you're asking yourself, am I addicted to social media? There's a category of people who are unhealthy users of social media. They are not addicted, but they are unhealthy user. So instead of relaxing, when you have time for relaxation, you prioritize scrolling on the internet, doing all the various social media websites. Um, Despite physical, you for those elder users rather, they are still able to maintain physical contact with human beings, compared to people who are addicted, who doesn't even care about having physical contact. They don't go out. They spend more time, as much as 4 hours on the social media. And then, yeah, so I just wanted to point out that there are unhealthy users and then there's addiction. And the addiction is the extreme end of it. And hopefully we talk more about this as time goes on today.
Mm. Thank you so very much. You know, as I was talking, I was looking at myself. Am I addicted or am I an unhealthy user? I won't tell you what it is, but I would just keep it to myself. I'm learning, I'm gaining. Because you know, one thing that you said now is the fact that sometimes even when you have the time to relax, you now want to check if somebody has sent you a message on Facebook. Before you know it, you're on WhatsApp, you're on Instagram, you are all over. 2 hours is gone. I don't know what category that is. So don't label me. Nobody should label me on this platform. But we will learn more. And Dr. Coca is going to be telling us now what are the signs and symptoms of social media, so that we would even know that what we have now is addiction or not addiction. Over to you, Dr. Coca.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening from everywhere you are listening from all over the world. So yes, when we talk about social media, like Dr. Adio, you have said, it's important at this very point in time that we understand that your habits are not, they are just a regular solution that the modern day has given to you to old vices. So the things that brings about addiction since generation past has always been there. But the only thing is that the things that we see around are the things that we use. And when we experiment with those things, we get the result that makes us feel good. Then the brain records it, and there's likelihood of it repeating that particular habit again until one, the feeling becomes different. There's a preoccupation with that particular behavior. Then we have temporary, like I said, satisfaction, then gradually start losing control and entering into negative consequences, which we refer to in this case as the social media addiction for our young people. So what exactly are we to look out for? What are the signs and symptoms of social media addiction in young persons and even those of us that are a bit older? Now, number one, we'll see certain things. I want to divide this conversation into three parts: the biological part, the psychological part, and the social part, or the psychosocial part. So the first one I'll be mentioning under the biological part is the lack of concern for one's physical appearance or health or hygiene. So it becomes very important that we know that when people are hooked on, they find it difficult to care for, they just neglect it because it is not their sole priority at that particular time. Do not forget that selective attention actually means that every other thing you do not select, like economists will say it, they are alternative forgone or opportunity cost. So once we select our attention, every other thing falls into our selective distraction. So those things are there. So they neglect their personal hygiene or physical appearance. They have altered sleep patterns because of certain things that are going on in their head. They have this compulsion to check because of the fear of missing out. We call it FOMO, fear of missing out. So yes, the sleep pattern become altered. And because of that, you see that their homeostasis is not stable. And any organism that cannot adapt to maintain homeostasis over a period of time, and I know that they will extinct. Another thing that we see when it comes to this particular group of people is that their diet is altered, and that nosedives gradually into sedentary lifestyle, being more prone to illness as a result of the first three things that I have mentioned. Then we start noticing withdrawal symptoms like low mood, irritability, weepy spells, self-isolation, staring or starving self, or in some cases, some extreme cases, even harming self-harm when these things are taken away from them. Research has a documentation of a 3-year-old that was, this smartphone was taken away from her, and she cried non-stop for about 8 hours, 3 years old. Just imagine. So, like he said, unhealthy use of social media is where it starts from. So what are the psychological markers that we need to pay attention to so that we know that these things are gradually becoming a problem? Using longer or more than one intent to use. That is number one. And these things is secondary to mindless scrolling, obsessive following of other persons on social media. And we'll see these individuals, they live more online, virtual world, virtual reality than in our real world, and which has its own dangers and consequences as well. We see this individual, they engage in risky online behaviors like gambling, excessive shopping, excessive window shopping, online borrowing, and quite a number of things. The list is very long. So we see all this kind of risky behavior. Somebody wants to check when the forex is going up or coming down, and as a result of that wants to log in at 12:01 a.m. in the middle of the night, and so the sleep is impaired at this point. Then they become irritable, because when you don't have a good night's sleep, it will be difficult during the day to actually perform very well. You see individuals in this category also spending huge time online. You know that time is the one singular currency that every human being has in equal proportion with which they can actually convert to knowledge, they can convert to money, they can convert to social relationship, they can convert to experience. But in cases where all this time or the large amount of this chunk of time is spent online, you know that this person is automatically disadvantaged compared to all the other teenagers, adolescents, or the young adults. We see loss of interest in previously pleasurable activities. We see things like they are trying to stop, but they cannot do it, hence affecting their grades, poor grade, poor work performance, poor social performance, and a lot of things like that. In fact, it can get as bad as anxiety and depression. And lastly, the social markers, skipping social events because they are not interested in those things, and going out there because it's not being practiced often, it gives them anxiety. They start palpitating, borrowing data, borrowing cash or credits. Are you one of those persons? Like Dr. Akinto Ishe was mentioning, strong attachment to smartphone, neglect life, work, family engagements, and even chores. Some are not able to do anything in there. Say, I'll get back to it later, until their mother or their parents are coming back later in the day, and they start running helter-skelter because they have mismanaged or they have misused their time. We talk about harmful behaviors such as, because they need to keep awake at night, they have to go and take some drugs to help them, or some because they are now completely awake, they cannot shut down, so they need to go and take some either prescription or non-prescription medication to help them sleep, hence developing tolerance and hence becoming an addict because of this particular thing. Thank you.
Dr. Hoka, this is huge. You know, here in the control room here, we are just looking at ourselves and everybody is ticking. And I don't know who is even safe from all of these things that we have listed out. Because, excuse me, sometimes it's a function of not wanting to miss out that keeps us glued there. What is the next? What have they posted? What is the current information? And it keeps us glued there. And there are lots of things that you have said now that honestly, it's looking like we have a huge problem. You know, I have a 3-year-old boy in my house now who came for holiday. And as soon as he's waking up, the first thing he says is, Big Mommy, I want phone, I want cartoon. And I'm wondering, how do we help this boy? How do we help him? And unfortunately, the grown-ups in my house are not even better, because you know it's like a fight for phone. If you see fight for phone, okay, oh, so let's move on. Now, Dr. Adeoye, what are the causes of this social media addiction? And then possibly the risk factor, so that if we are looking at the symptoms, we will begin to understand how did we cause or how did we get to this point. Dr. Femi Adeoye.
Thank you very much. You said it's like the fight for phone. Yeah. So the causes is related to exactly that. So we can say like a fight for device. So because it could be on the phone, on the laptop, but before I go to the causes, I just like to touch briefly on the effect of social media addiction on the brain. We must understand that any addictive behavior is as a result of the fact that that behavior gives us pleasure whenever we participate in it. So if you touch fire, there's nobody that is going to want to be addicted to touching fire, because it gives us a painful experience compared to when you do something that you find pleasurable. There's a tendency for you to go back to it. So when you go to, for example, let's look at Instagram, and you scroll, you see maybe Wizkid or Davido, and you hear them, the banter, one is abusing the other, and you like to know what Davido said. That gives you a good feeling. And you go to Wizkid, what Wizkid said, that gives you a good feeling. Before you know it, your brain is trained to enjoy that, and you want to give more of that. So it's like you are giving a boost of what we call dopamine, and that continues to consolidate that behavior. So in terms of what is now um, the causes, well, I mean, we could look at the causes in terms of the individual factor, and of course, we also talk about the risk factors, which can include the factors around the technology itself. So 10 people might be on the internet, using the internet, and only maybe 4 of them will get addicted. So why the difference? Because there's a genetic predisposition. What I mean by that is that some people, by virtue of what they inherited from their parents, are more predisposed to addiction in general. So addiction can be use of drugs or behavioral. So if you know that there's a tendency in the family to have an addictive behavior, then you should be more mindful when you take up habits that are addictive in nature. Of course, I have to talk briefly about the chemical in the brain called the dopamine, and it rewards enjoyable the behavior. So that predisposes us to using it, doing that behavior more. Um, there are also the psychosocial factors, which include some of the things that Dr. Coker spoke about, the pressure of wanting to feel among, wanting to know the breaking news, wanting to will know what's trending. And also nowadays, like I said, the technology is designed in a way that there's an algorithm actually following every individual on internet to know what you like, what you desire, and then they promote that in your timeline. So, for example, if you like a particular musician or a particular fashion, you just suddenly start seeing more of that on your device, and you wonder, oh, how are they able to monitor what I like? So you start to see more of that, and then you are hooked on that because that's what you enjoy. Um, the other thing that we must emphasize today is that mental illness itself can predispose to people to addiction. People who are depressed are likely not to interact with other people. Sometimes they not even they are isolated at home, and the only thing they have is access to the internet. So they spend more time on the internet. They kind of it can be a form of escapism while they spend so much time on the internet, and that predisposes them to this addiction. I'm just going to quickly also say that for teenagers and the young ones, the role of the parents is very important. Because sometimes we don't have time for them, we give them devices to distract them. We should be responsible when we do this. We create a barrier, time limits, because we also need to be knowledgeable about these devices to know how we can set time limits to age restriction, and so many other things that we could do. Your personality, I mean, people find validation online these days because they are able to um, put up what is not real on the internet. They get validation through the likes and shares and views and all that. So people wake up daily to see, oh, how many people have liked my post, how many people have viewed it. Sometimes it's also the monetary gain while you at it, because a lot of these social media platforms like YouTube pay a lot of money if you have a lot of followers. And lastly, among many, is the modeling. The there's a huge followership of people who are seen as role model in the society, and the people, young ones who are very easily impressionable, want to also go online to see what's going on and follow all these people they consider as models. So these are some of the many other possible causes that can be associated with social media addiction. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Antioye, for that. You know, what this algorithm that you talked about, you just click, you're looking for maybe a shoe, a bag, or something. Just one page, you click to the next thing is they start sending you different ones. And then you'll be tempted to just start checking. And if you're not careful, they take you all. But another thing that's coming to mind, and I think somebody had also spoken about it, is the fact that now in schools now, most of the work they do is online. And so sometimes you have to sit on their neck to see what it is that they are doing. Otherwise, from the assignments, they will go to another place and go to another place and go to another place. Have you not finished? You say, I'm still searching for something. You now can wonder, what are they searching for? And I think that's also one of the major, because for me, I would say my own problem with the social media thing for my children started with during the COVID, the lockdown time when they had to go to school and it was virtual. And, we had to give them gadgets and other things like that. And that became a major challenge, that we have to now deal with. But let's look at what are the effects of this addiction on the individual. Dr. Coker, what are the effects of social media addiction on the individual?
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much. Yes, like Dr. Adeoye has rightly said, it is important that we understand these things so that we know what is actually happening and where we can actually help them. As we are focused today on teenagers and young adults, it's important that we understand that certain things are very crucial and important to this particular group of people. Like I earlier said, that your habits are just modern day solution to the same old vices. So it is not necessarily that these things are coming new. It's just that there are newer things now, like social media, to actually deal with the same ingrained human problem. You understand that when it comes to teenagers and young adults, one thing that is important to them is that they try as much as possible to reduce uncertainty. And I tell you, when you want to reduce uncertainty, when you are not very sure, you use AI or you go to Google. You want to win social approval. That is a priority for them. And for that to happen, you have to have people that you are chatting and gisting with. You want to gain status. So yes, you post some edited and re-edited photos on Instagram, like that. Then we talk about camaraderie. Back in the day, you remember in school when they say aluta, and you wonder those things that used to cause trouble back then. If now, and you think within yourself that I didn't know why I actually joined what they were doing back then, because now as an adult it doesn't make sense. And the reason is because the teenager's brain is not fully developed yet. So there are some things that we will see. They may not mean much to you, but there are a lot to these people. Number one, they feel overwhelmed when they cannot catch up. So Sunday says this, Chioma said that, Franca said this, and they see a lot of like 500, 1,000, 2,000 likes, shares on their post, whereas they are just trying to catch up. So in this case, they try all they can, but they become overwhelmed because of this particular stress that they're exposing themselves to every time. That is one of the personal effects on them. Then you see this thing we refer to as attention-seeking behavior, because like Dr. Adeoye said, when parents do not actually somebody say show me love, there's deliberate ways that we actually implant love into these children, into this adolescent, into this young adult. When it is not there, they go out to actually seek for this love in the form of in the form of shares, in the form of some love that they post, and all the things. How many comments do I have? How many views do I have? They interpret this thing as a form of love and gradually slip into attention-seeking behavior, which in business we refer to as confirmation bias. Confirmation bias. That is another problem. Another thing we see is that they get unsettled when there's no either device or network, when the smartphone is not available or there's no internet facility to be able to search. Do you remember very well what happened a particular day in 2023 when WhatsApp in Nigeria just suddenly stopped working? Some people wanted to run mad that particular day. It wasn't funny at all. So yes, they become unsettled. Even adults, attention and concentration becomes a problem. We call it monkey mind. So the attention spans becomes shorter and shorter, shorter and shorter. They want to move from this to this and this to this, and they are not able to concentrate on one thing. Sleep disorders, because once this thing begins to accumulate, like I've mentioned before, poor sleep will in turn becomes a set of behaviors that begins to affect them holistically. We have problems with mood or mood disorders. We have general health challenges altogether. I've mentioned FOMO before, fear of missing out. Then we talk about social isolation, because the truth of the matter is that somebody is communicating quote and unquote, with 2,000 people online. But the truth of the matter is that in real life, he's actually isolated to the corner of a room, all by himself or herself, mimicking gradually signs and symptoms of depression. And if you mimic it, it's a question of when it becomes your reality. We call it self-fulfilling prophecies. So lots of social skills, the things we use as human beings, we get better at them. And the ones we do not use, gradually they slip out of our hand like disuse entropy. And you discover that they lose their social skills. Attention is narrowed and motivation for other things becomes diminished over a period of time. When we observe these things, it is time to seek help. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Coker, for that. You know, I had an experience yesterday night when the little chap in my house came and said, "Oh, mommy, I want to watch cartoon." And I said, "It's past 10, go and sleep." He said, "No, I want cartoon." I closed it, put off the light, put him on bed, and within 3 minutes, this guy had slept. And I was wondering if I had given him the phone, he would still be there, struggling with sleep, struggling to watch, struggling to, and it's like a lot of overstimulation that is going on the brain. And like Dr. Adeoye said earlier on, the dopamine reaction and every other thing excites us and makes us want to. And I think this is what we should also begin to look at as parents. There are comments and questions that had been coming on the chat box. We appreciate it. So please go ahead, send in your comments, send in your questions. Our speakers are knowledgeable, and then they will be able to answer them. Oluwati Ojelade says, "Yours sincerely is being called old school. I don't subscribe to secondary students using phone. The 16-year-old living with me, once he said he has an assignment on Google, I will release my phone and he will do whatever he wants to do under my supervision." Thank you for that. Professor Fatai Badru said secondary school students can be allowed the use of IT gadget for sundry virtual assignments given in school today as take-home assignment. But to what extent would they go? Now talk about family link and all those things that sometimes these children are so wise, they can get you off and you will not even know that you are out and off from all of these places. Dr. Fola said parents should find time to supervise our adolescents and even young adults in the use of its gadgets. Give them the knowledge about how dangerous it can be to be addicted to the internet and some of the ills associated with it. And I want to thank God that this is going on now. So we will be able to circulate this information more so that people can get to understand that this internet thing is good, but again, the ill side is also very, very, very much. Dr. Onyema Abaze said, absolutely have conversation. Sometime I have learned, something I have learned is never make smartphone a forbidden fruit. The world is changing so fast, so it's best to introduce children at the right age with the right skill and right measure to the phone. This is preferable for some children as it prevents them from swinging into addiction when they have their hands on a phone. But then how then do you determine right age, right time? Because there is a problem with some of those things. These children are they are so fast. Some things that I don't know, they would no. So I gave a child a phone. I said, I want to watch cartoon. I said, I don't have cartoon on my phone. And then the next thing he just scrolled up and went to my Netflix. And before I knew it, he logged on, went to the children cartoon, and it was there on Netflix. And I was still looking like, excuse me. And that means this child has been, I don't know. And that's why I'm wondering, this is a 3-year-old. So how then do you, I don't know. Teresa said, thank you for this impactful. We haven't ended, so please send in your comments, send in your questions. We will be able to attend to them before the end of this episode today. So Dr. Adeoye, how do we deal with social media addiction? We are here now. We are at this point in time. It's a huge thing in our world. How do we deal with it? Over to you, Dr. Adeoye.
Well, I mean, thank you very much. The social media has come to stay. There's no hiding from it. Like we have highlighted, it's not all doom. There are a lot of benefits of social media. So what we are dealing with is addiction. And addiction, like I said earlier, is when people lose control. It's now start affecting their other aspect of life. especially adolescents, mostly their academics and their family relationship. And as adults, it start affecting our job, our relationship, and our ability to live to the expected standard. So recognizing it is the starting point. Recognizing there's a problem. Without recognizing it, there's no way we will be able to solve the problem. So first thing is to identify and acknowledge it. Sometimes it's someone else that is recognizing on our behalf and telling us that, oh, it seems you are addicted to this. Instead of denying it, we should reflect and then acknowledge it, and then look at how then we can get help. Addiction generally can be difficult to break, so it because it's developed over a period of time insidiously, and breaking it suddenly can be challenging. So, but one of the strategies is, like I said, someone must be motivated to really solve this problem, and you can then decide, okay, I've been spending 5 hours on social media every day. And you can actually know this. Your phone can tell you how much time you spend on the internet uh, every day. And then I'd like to cut it down over a period of time, maybe by 1 hour every week or every day. You give yourself a reasonable target, and then stick to your plan and try to work with that. Um, you could also ask for, have an accountability partner, maybe your parents or your spouse, your colleague, your friend. So someone you're accountable to in terms of dealing with it. So to say, oh, okay, this is the plan. Are you sticking to the plan? Um, yeah. So be mindful of the content you consume. Um, when you go online, be mindful that the technology is designed to monitor certain things about you, and that's what they call the algorithm. And that thing is actually specialized for you. The approach is to see what you like best. If you like Dr. Kintoye was saying, a particular type of bag, they will kind of put more of that. So things that are um, when they ask that are you happy for certain things to be in terms of the permission you give, you could decline certain permission sometimes, but of course the social media still has a way of getting to know what your interests are. But there are certain websites on the internet that are even more addictive, some of them are not the topic of today, but be mindful of what we're dealing with online. um, Outside of the social media or outside of the internet in general, find a life, um, like hobbies that takes you outside of your home. Get into some maybe clubs that after school you could do certain activities with them, or family activities also. Family time that you play games, traditional games, rather than online games. Um, Taking people for a walk if it's safe, and going for football if you like one, basketball, pick up other hobbies outside of the internet. And then like I said earlier, beware of the algorithm, because the algorithm is always there to monitor you and designed to beat you really. So seek professional help. Lastly, that's the most important thing. Professional help is available, and of course that's one of the reasons this platform is provided. um, you could consult with your counselors if you are in school. You could ask some religious bodies. You could also get help from them. You know, and of course the psychiatric hospital Yaba is always there for the extreme ones that need help. The psychology department there can help provide what we call the talking therapy, where the talk you through what is the cause of your own particular problem and how divine certain strategies or equip you with skills whereby you can use to break these habits. Um, Generally, we use the word detoxification. So you can detox yourself from social media. You can put your phone away. You could change your smartphone to um, analog phone. I mean, that's hard for a lot of us to do. Just phone that can do basic things. You can do it for a period of time to drastically detox yourself. And yeah, so some of these things are if you also understand your smartphone, you could set timing to time you out of certain applications, and you can actually delete certain applications from your phone entirely. You If you don't have them, you will find out that you live your life. There was a recent experiment in the UK where students were asked voluntarily to submit their mobile phone. It was a school-based experiment, um, and of course, it was a volunteer thing. Some were able to keep away from the phone for the entire duration of the experiment, whereas some couldn't even last one day. They had to ask for their phone back. But of course, when people are motivated for change, change is easier. So that's the bottom line. If you want help, you could always get help. Start with yourself. Give yourself some restrictions, and you can use that phone that you have in your hand or your devices to set up limits for yourself. And if you fail at that, you can seek professional help. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Adeoye, for that. One of the things that I hear him say is you can change your phone from this to the analog phone, where one of the things I had done in the past is I don't come online until very much later, so that I don't get drawn in, because sometimes you just want to see, have they sent a departmental notice or something, and then you are just there. Sometimes you want to do something on your phone, and then you see several messages, you want to attend to, and then by the time you even finish with that, you had virtually forgotten what it was exactly that you wanted to do on the phone. And so in my house, sometimes I hear my kids say, "Oh, I'm bored," and I'm like, "Excuse me, bored? What is bothering you? I don't understand." Oh, I'm restless. Oh, some of those things are just there, but we have to be very intentional if we would make a change that is appropriate for ourselves, and that is what I've heard him say. So if you know that it's a problem and you need help dealing with it, then you must be intentional about getting help and getting yourself out. So Dr. Kuka is going to talk to us about there are things that we can do to prevent ourselves from getting into this vices, and then are there other solutions that you can also discuss with us? Over to you, Dr. Kuka.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much once again. So what can we do at this particular point in time? It is important that we understand, like I have said, do not make a big deal out of it. Dr. Adeoye has said something that you have to admit that there's a problem. We know that there is a problem, but are we admitting it? So if I admit that there is a problem, then I know that there is a solution. Don't forget that I've earlier said that your present behavior is not necessarily the best way to solve the problem. It's just what you have learned over a period of time to have worked. So one, open your mind, understand that whatever it is that you know now is just what you know, and you should understand that you do not know as you ought to know. Every individual has a room for improvement at every point in time. So there are other ways, even though I have not found them, of knowing. And it is very important at this particular point in time that we clarify. We are not saying that you should not use digital devices. We're actually talking about social media addiction. So please let us know. And let us note that particular point. So one of the things I'm going to talk about very quickly is the power of association. The power of association. We call it, especially with Gen Zs now, we talk about your tribe. Your tribe. Who are your tribe? Your tribe is not your village people. They are not where you came from. They are the type of people that think like you think, relate like you relate, associate like you associate. You have things in common with them. And because it is important that we know that nobody, not any human being, actually chose their earliest habits. We only imitated them. So some persons got to this particular point by imitating others. So that is why we used to say that you can't sustain a positive habit in a negative environment. So one, who are those set of persons that you relate with per time? Who are those people that you refer to as your tribe? It will be very difficult to sustain a very positive habit in a negative environment. So you need to, one, pots, like they used to say, MTN, Glow, all those. They say port as a move from a network that is performing poorly to the one that is doing better. So who are my tribe? Somebody says, show me your friend. And I will tell you, I do not need a psychoanalysis of you. By virtue of me analyzing who your friends are, I can tell who you are, what you are predisposed to, and how you are going to end by virtue of the association that you keep. Somebody says the company you keep determines what accompany you. So certain persons have gotten into addiction by virtue of the company that they keep. So it is important that we know that, because culture sets the pace for what we determine to be or what we accept as norm or normal. So the tribe actually, most of the time, in an environment where academic is the thing, you discover that almost everybody in that particular area wants to strive for some level of academic mastery, for some certification, qualification, and the rest of it like that. We say shared identity motivates personal habits. That is one of the other reasons why we need to know who our tribes are. What are the psychodynamics or the psychographics of this particular tribe that I belong, and how well are they doing me well? Because we are talking about teenagers, we are talking about young adults, we are talking about influenced by this tribe, by the group that they belong to. So we said the more of an individual, the more an individual is confused, the more they look up to their norm, their tribe, for a way forward, for approval, for the right behavior in the given situation pattern. In fact, a research in 2014 shows that an individual with an obese friend has 50% chance already to become obese because of that particular friend that they have. Like I've said before, show me your friend and I'll tell you who you are. So these things are important to know and to note. You will discover another thing I want to talk about is that, please, parents, pay attention. Alcohol has age limits in every country of the world. What is the age limit on social media? I remember when WhatsApp, was brought down to age 14, that persons that are at the age of 14 can now apply. There were a lot of uproar here and there, people grumbled, and what else happened? So we cannot put the life, the future as a shaper, as a molder of a destiny of our children, of our adolescent, of our young adults in the hand of social media. So we have to set the standards in the home environment. Don't forget that the home is the primary nations from which either the good, the bad, or the uglies are released into the bigger nation, and they influence the nations of the world based on the trainings they have received from their primary nation or home environment. So please, since alcohol has a age limit on it, you need to put and stamp your feet on the age limit and the sites that they can see, the ones they cannot view. Do not expose any child to any kind of social media if you have not taught them on the appropriate use of that particular media, because it will be tantamount to suicide. It is very important that we know this thing. Then some of us that are overwhelmed, it is time to take time off, like Dr. Adeoye has said, do a social media detox. In fact, we can do a social media detox challenge. That is how some of us will be able to tell if we are actually addicted or not. If by evening you're already shaking, your body is already brrr, then you know that there's a problem. 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 21 days, 1 month. Another thing we used to do in behavior modification is that we make the behavior difficult to do. Imagine yourself having to log out of your Facebook, Instagram, at every point in time that you use it. So it is not just a click away. You have to re-enter your email. You have to re-enter your password each and every time. Then it becomes difficult. As long as it becomes difficult to use, then the the crave to actually do it again, when you consider the steps 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps. In fact, you can go as far as actually deleting the app. And anytime you need it, you have to reinstall. Then enter number, enter this, enter that to be able to use it. Once the complexity is hard, it will become difficult to use. And just like behaviors that we want, once we make it easy to do or easy to use, then another thing is that they say out of sight is out of mind. When we try as much as possible to keep these things away, some of us have very flashy icons on our phone. So make it a bland one, that all of them just looking black and white, all of them in just numbers, not in pictures, not in things like that, or in words like that. It becomes difficult when you keep the phone away from yourself, keep the social media. In fact, you can tell yourself that I am going to subscribe to so amount of data on a daily basis, and once it's exhausted, it's over. So those things will help you. They are markers. They are, like he said, accountability partners in form of persons, in form of things, like we used to talk about PPT, people, places, and things. So because for some people, when they are in certain environment, they use more. Which environment makes you use more? Who are the people that makes you use that? Once you are in their midst, they use more. It is time to cut off. Certain places make you use more. It is time to cut off. And certain things, they trigger the thought of the use in your head. It is time to actually note those things then and start cutting off. Then anytime you want to use social media, can you just speak out loud that I want to binge on social media now? I know it's dangerous to my health, but I want to do it anyway, and see how interested you will still be consuming that particular product. Social media is just like sugar. The brain craves it. Everybody craves social approval. But one way or the other, we can actually start getting ourselves off those things by practicing this thing. And above all, seek, find, and use professional help. It will help you a whole lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. That's wonderful. And I think that has taken care of the question about how to overcome addiction. But Dr. Adeoye, I want you to quickly attend to this. Where do you draw the line as an adult whose job is 100% social media related? You monitor news as they break and quickly work on it and post on all platforms, including your site. Especially as a journalist who monitors news, you tend not to want to miss out on any trending news. So how do we create a balance? Dr. Adeoye, could you help us with that?
Thank you very much. Like we said, we are not in any way advocating that we should not use social media. Of course, that's not really practical for this current age. So what we're looking at is addiction, misuse. In other words, misuse that is now affecting your life negatively. So if your job is online, you probably have no other option than to be online. But of course, if you have a job and that's what you're doing online, then I won't call that a misuse. But if you think that is actually creating a problem for you, then you should find out why that is a problem and look at how best to avoid that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I think you had answered that very well. Yes, it's your job and you have to do your job. So the focus is getting on the social media and doing your job. But if it's also now causing other problems for you, then please find a way to begin to set controls in that manner that will help you to be able to move away from that. Dr. Fola Rogers said most of what Dr. Coker's points are down to peer influence. In summary, Dr. Adeoye spoke about supervision. Yes, in all, parents should be close to their children, know their friends and interests, get into regular conversations with them. You can't force anything. I agree. Dialogue will help. Family vacations can bring good bonding. You too should look for knowledge about these things. Where it is beyond us, then we can seek professional help as suggested by Dr. Adeoye. Professor Fatai said social media addiction among youth and adolescents in Nigeria is of major research and clinical interest to mental health practitioners and professionals. It is estimated that about 40% of this population deploy more than 4 to 5 hours daily on social media, and a number of them use media as a form of coping mechanism, either positively or negatively. I agree. Sometimes some people are past their bus stop and they will not know until that's the last bus stop, they will know that they had passed. They are on social media, they did not know. And some of them tend to have sleep challenges when engaged in social media addiction. Mental health awareness medium like Your Voice can go a long way in nipping the problem in the bud. Online literacy and resocialization can be intensified for them, among others. Yes, Madam Ejiro said, yes, one activity leading to the other. Galaxy, thank you for this information. Yes, well said, remain blessed. Yes, Debola said, fast social media for Lent. Yes, so I think we really need to do that. I remember in the last couple of weeks, there was no internet service, and it was like some people wanted to die. Some people wanted to die. It was really terrible for some people. Some of us initially didn't even know there was a problem, but later when there was no message, there's this thing that drugs your body, like alert here, go to Wale. There should be an alert now, and there's nothing. There's what is happening? That was when we got to know that there was a problem. For some people, the moment it happened, they knew that there was something else. So I think that would also help you. So Lufumtai or Tai Jagwemi says, thank you for this exposition, really educating. And then Buluranti said, wonderful presentation. Thank you, Dr. Koka. We're going to take last word from our speakers. It's been wonderful. Yes, Mutag said, well delivered. Matt Olsen said, thank you for this information. Yes, the video will be sent to the Yabo Voice YouTube page, and so you can easily access the recording of this episode as well as previous episodes on the YouTube page. Yaba Voice FMPHY. Yaba Voice FMPHY on the YouTube. You would get the recording of this particular episode, and it's also on Facebook too, so you can easily just access it. Matterson says, thank you so much for this important webinar of cankerworms that is eating fast into the fabrics of this our global society. God help us. And so every one of us, as God is helping us, we need to also come on board and make sure that we do our best in terms of checkmating, in terms of being intentional, and in terms of also supervising to ensure that we deal with this before it becomes a menace that we will not be able to deal with. Yes, Dr. Adioye, your last word, sir. All right, Dr. Koka, can we have your last word while we wait for Dr. Adioye?
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. I want to let all of us know today that a craving, especially when it comes to social media addiction, is actually a manifestation of an underlying something deeper, a need that is not met. So please let us not say we do not know. For you to get your attention economy back, digital minimalism becomes one of the solutions. So please, let's reduce drastically, for those of us that are still able to reduce drastically the amount of time that we spend on digital devices, especially social media. And for those of us that are not able to do it by ourselves, today, right now, immediately after this program, is the time to seek help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Koka. Digital minimalism. That is the word I'm going home with. Digital minimalism. Right now is the time to start. Dr. Adioye, over to you. Your last word, sir. Dr. Adioye. Can't hear him. All right. Madam Ijiro says, many thanks to our resource person. The session is very educating. Emmanuel Hall says, very impactful session. It's just a pity that those that really need this is not always attending this kind of, yes, that's why it's going to be on the web. You will help us share. Help us share until they get to see it. It's very important. They're on the link, and then kindly please help us subscribe and then share the link, and then they will get to know. Share on different platforms. So once you get to the YouTube page, click on share, send to different platforms, your church platform, school platform, and everywhere. That's very, very important. Medical Director, sir, do you have a last word for us on this platform today? Medical Director, sir. Dr. Owoye. Dr. Olubenga Adekile Owoye, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemi Akitoye, for the good job. We just want to appreciate everybody on the platform and also stress that there is need for us to minimize the use of these digital devices and then to minimize the time spent on the internet. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, the medical director. Thank you also for allowing us to have this platform and to also share this information. Yeah, thank you so very much. Every Thursday of the month is usually a time for Yaba Voice, so you could sync your time on your calendar to this time. Thursday every month, God's willing, we are always here, ready to do our thing and to share information as much as possible. And by the grace of God, next month we'll be meeting again and we'll be talking about suicide and mental health. What are the challenges and what are the way out? We'll be bringing erudite scholars too, who will be sharing their thoughts to us on what suicide is, as well as the challenges that pertains to that. Yes, please, what is the YouTube page? Yaba Voice FMPHY. Yaba Voice FNPHY. FNPHY stands for the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba. So Yaba Voice. If you even click on Yaba Voice, you would most likely get us even without the FNPHY. So you can quickly just check up on this recording as well as previous episodes of the Yaba Voice webinar. So thank you so very much for being on this call with us again. Once again, we say thank you to our speakers and our audience. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always obliging us, and thank you for spending time with us every time that you see our flyers. So until we come your way again next month, by the grace of God, please keep flourishing. Digital minimalism starts now. It is important. Bye-bye. Thank you.